No. Hello, everybody. It is I, Dennis Shimko. Welcome to my Amused by Music YouTube channel. I've made the executive decision to bring this shit over here because simply it's just more of a convenient format for us here. Some editing, alright, some scripting, you know, these things, they can just really help me be a lot more concise and make my reviews a lot more digestible. Speaking of reviews, you may notice that the title of this video is actually not pertaining to a review for this month. Unfortunately, it's just because I've been pretty busy with my current schedule. So we're doing something different today. Alright, we're gonna do the re-review. And it's because, you know, I'm going on vacation. Alright, it's a little too difficult for me to try and review the next album right now. So yeah, let's just get to it. Alright, let's just get to it. Just getting it out of the way real quick, because, you know, we're doing this overhaul in general. I figured I would just do everything a bit different. Alright, this re-review, alright, it's not going to take 30 minutes per fucking album like I did last time. We're just gonna like re-review all of them in a short form manner, and I'll make sure to timestamp each respective review, so if you wanted to just skip to, you know, one you were interested in, you can just go right ahead. I'm gonna go in chronological order, pussies. We're gonna go right into what is actually not an album, alright? Because my very first review here was actually a song. Alright, it was a song by the name of Eye in the Sky by the Parsons Project. Now, when it comes to this song, alright, I already appreciate it from the very first moment I was shown it, because it was actually my dad who had shown me like this 10-minute extended, like long version of it, and I wanted to seek out the original, and the original perfectly stands on its own as well. I mean, if anything, it's technically, you know, the best version, because the extended version just kind of loops some moments. You know, notwithstanding, you know, the song by itself is awesome. You know, Parsons is an incredibly talented dude. Like, his love for music is shown just by the quality of the sound. Like, this song, and by extension, the whole album, it just has this very crisp and catchy, just kind of natural, you know, form to it, where it's not overdoing anything, it's not doing anything too lightly or too heavily. It just does exactly what it needs to. Everyone stays in the pocket. It never comes off like too hard or like it's trying too hard. And, you know, I think one of my favorite aspects of this song in particular is this dude Eric Wolfson. He just absolutely bodies the vocals like with grace, and the instrumentation just does exactly what it needs to support him. I just think, you know, the warmth of his voice really suits the song, because they have like different vocalists for a lot of the songs on the album, but I mean, this is one of the best songs off the album for a reason, and I think Eric is also a big part of that. But yeah, I'd say the song is still a 10 out of 10. There's not much else to say. You just kind of have to listen to it. I mean, it's a perfect song to make love to cry to have emotional moments to. So yeah, I'd be excited to review the whole album sometime, but you know, either way, the next chapter of this re-review features Parsons in a way, because he helped produce the next album that I'm about to talk about. So this is the last shred of my 2023 reviews, because beyond this point I had another long hiatus before I started to review the submitted albums you guys gave me. Next comes the Dark Side of the Moon 2023 Remaster by Floyd, and you know, I can't really say that I can add much, because last time I also said there's like not much else I can add, and I can't say much again. All I can do is kind of just repeat myself, and you know, I just honestly, I can't really find like a single flaw with this album, like, truth be told, because, you know, the only flaw I could find is that, you know, I would just recommend that if you're going to listen to Dark Side of the Moon, whether it's the original or the 2023 remaster, you just need to clear the time in your schedule, which is about like 43 minutes, and just clear your headspace and make sure that you're fully focusing on the album, because I just feel like that's the best way to consume the album, truthfully. Because, you know, the whole band, they do an amazing job. it's just this excellent immersive experience that can just give you like a shit ton of emotions within 43 minutes. Like some of it's emotional and sad, some of it's fun and really gets you just kind of going, you know, and between all of that there's just these interludes or these kind of pieces that set you up for the journey. So yeah, and you know, even the tracks without like many lyrics or that just have like less of a meaning overall, they can still just be compelling, like sonically speaking. It's really just about letting the album take you on that ride. And you know, with the 2023 remaster, the work here that they did was really minimal, and it just doesn't really change anything. I'd say, if anything, everything is just ever so slightly crispier. But like, I feel like you wouldn't really notice the crispy difference unless you had like a very high-tech audio equipment. Because, you know, from my experience, I often listen through Bluetooth just out of convenience, and if you do Bluetooth, you know, that doesn't really give you the full experience if you like wire it to your phone. That's besides the point though, because, you know, whether you're listening to the 2023 remaster or the original, you're essentially getting the same exact experience, and that's because nothing needed to be changed with this album. So yeah, I'd say it's still a 10 out of 10, and my favorite tracks are easily Time, Money, and Any Color You Like. I just think Time is easily one of the best Pink Floyd songs. Money is just a bop. I love how it goes from a complicated time signature, I can't remember off the top of my head right now, and then it goes into 4/4 for the solo. And that change is just like a huge aspect of what I love about that song. And then Any Color You Like, I just love how groovy and funky it is. So then, that brings us to the next song here, which is Transmissions by Starset. Now, you know, this is the first album I ever had submitted, and, you know, I'm really glad to be back to it, because when it comes to all of the albums I review, I listen to them a lot, and then I kind of have to just, like, take a break after I'm done reviewing them. But, you know, some of them I definitely come back to, especially, like, my favorite tracks. And with this one, I really respected back then, and I still respect now, the vision that this album had in mind, that Dustin Bates had in mind, because, you know, he's essentially the front man of the band and kind of the mastermind behind a lot of the workings, Dustin Bates. And, you know, I really appreciate how it just has such a vast array of, like, genres that it's just trying to, like, fuse together to make this cinematic listening experience. It's one of the most cinematic, you know, albums I've had to listen to, because, you know, it has like this whole lore behind it, and whether you deeply pay attention to that lore or not, like, there's still at least one song on this album that could capture anybody, right? Like, there's kind of a song for everyone in that aspect, because with the vast array of genres you're bringing, you're able to just kind of catch everybody in a way, even if, you know, the album isn't their full cup of tea. And for me, you know, I quite enjoy most of the tracks off this album. I mean, the sound is super cohesive, but, you know, Dustin Bates' creativity never stays stuck in one place. Because, you know, we have, like, electronic, we've got metal, we've got pop, there's, like, orchestras, and there's progressive elements to it, you know, because it's trying to tell this story about this dude and this whole thing, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but, you know, it is essentially its own form of prog. And, you know, some tracks definitely lean more in a poppy direction. I mean, Carnivore, if I'm not wrong, was one of their biggest hits. Let It Die, I know, was also very popular with a lot of people. I'd say those are, like, kind of the more poppy songs where, you know, they kind of repeat the title of the song a lot in the chorus. But then there's other songs that are a lot more epic and a lot more heavy, and they kind of bring in that more metal aspect. Like, a lot of the tracks towards the end, like Rise and Fall and, you know, The Future Is Now and shit. And so, you know, in my opinion, you know, with the album, at its worst, it's a bit less interesting and disjointed, because the orchestral aspects and the outro parts that they try to add on at the end of the song, I feel like sometimes it just kind of drags things out for nothing. I feel like it should have, for the orchestral moments, or for, like, the cool piano synthy moments where it kind of just goes ambient, they should have integrated it and connected it more and, like, followed it into the next song if you're going to do this whole proggy thing. I hear that the reason the shit is like that is because of the music videos and shit. I don't really care. I feel like if you're going to make music and if you're going to add that stuff into the tracks on the actual album and studio version, then in the music it should stand on its own as well, rather than just feeling like this extra bit that you just tacked on. After that, it's, you know, because of that, like, the songs just kind of start randomly one after another, where it's just like, okay, we had this orchestral epic reprieve, and it just doesn't lead anything. I think they could have integrated the strings more into the songs themselves if they wanted to do that. Well, truth be told, I also just feel like some of the choruses don't really hit me as much. Like sometimes I just can't really rock with Carnivore or Let Us Die. And I know, I was very rough on Let It Die in the original review, but you know, I've warmed up to the song a bit. I still think it's one of the weaker ones in my opinion, but I do not hate Let It Die as much as I used to. I just think it's an alright song now. But, at its best, I feel like this album has a lot of emotion, it has a lot of weight, and it has a lot of flavor. So, this huge fusion, it works with it and against it. My favorite tracks that demonstrate those three qualities the best, in my opinion, would easily be The Future Is Now, which is definitely my favorite off the album. I just love how fucking heavy, and just how, Dustin Bates is very talented with his screaming. And then Anti-Gravity, I just love it. I don't know, it's a banger. I think it's a good middle ground, because then my next favorite song is Halo, which is definitely more on the softer end, but I really love it. It's really grown on me a lot. So The Future Is Now, Anti-Gravity, Halo, those are like my top bangers. But the end of the album, the last few tracks are really good. I also feel like the album starts off really strong. It's just in the middle, it goes kind of back and forth for me. Ultimately, I'm also going to say this is the same score. We went 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Those remain the same. This is 7 out of 10. It's still 7 out of 10, in my opinion. But that does not mean it's bad at all. I just think I'm excited, because I've heard some other Starset tracks, and I'm excited to see more of them, because from the few tracks I've heard, they've both been stronger on the electronic aspect, but I've heard some more recent new music that emphasizes the screaming and the more metal aspect. So I got a lot of love for Starset, including this album. Without further ado, that brings us into our next one. Meliora by Ghost. So, truth be told, Ghost and I have a bit of a complicated relationship, because I think there's a lot of talent behind Ghost's entire discography. Because, Tobias Forge, that dude is essentially 90% of Ghost. He's fascinating. He really wrote all of this shit. He really formulated everything. He's the mastermind to be able to put in this much effort and to be able to record as many instruments and as many things as he does in the studio. That's genuine talent. Even the people that he gets to work with him on albums or when he's performing, I think it's fantastic. I think it's fascinating. I think Ghost has really tapped into just such a special niche of sound, because I have never heard or never seen any other band that sounds like Ghost. And I think that's an achievement within and of itself. I've never seen any other band emulate this sound. Even if Ghost draws inspiration from certain things, I feel like it always brings a new and refreshing, take on whatever it's emulating or inspired by. But on the other hand, I wish the sound was kind of applied to some different subject matter. Because, I'm not going to go on a super long rant, but my Christianity is something I kind of deem important to myself. I'm not extremely devout, but I still find it important to hold it in high regard and keep it as a sacred part of myself. Meanwhile, Ghosts, the vast majority of their discography, their whole gimmick is just being as sacrilegious and disrespectful to Catholicism and by extension Christianity as possible. So of course you could imagine that gives me a bit of an inner conflict when it comes to me listening to this shit, because I don't mind criticizing organized religion and the people behind it, but when it goes as far as it does here with songs that essentially worship Satan and spit on God's word like that, it just kind of automatically prevents me from being fully comfortable with the music and from it getting a higher score. That being said, I do enjoy the tracks that invite some subtlety a lot more, and even the ones I enjoy less lyrically, they're still really well made. There's no missteps or mistakes sonically speaking on this album. I think it all sounds great and it's all catchy. And Ghost, they never try too hard to blow your socks off, and they strive to do more with less, and that's exactly what they do. The songs are never too busy, but they still just pack enough of a punch. I love the solos. I love Tobias's vocal delivery, because he's Swedish, so when he sings in English here, it gives it just a very special tone and a snappiness that I really like. I think this album definitely verges more on arena rock and just trying to get everybody to rock, but I think it's better for that, because in every other aspect it's different. It's not arena rock in the same way that Led Zeppelin or AC/DC are. This is almost light metal or rock, and it's kind of hard to fully define, but it's excellent. I think the sound is great despite my setbacks with it personally. So I'd say my personal favorites off this album are Mummy Dust, complete banger, love the synth solo. Missionary Man, I really love his vocal inflection. I think it's an excellent cover of the song. It really does it justice. The harmonica goes hard, and the lady he gets to sing on it is awesome. And Absolution, I love it. It's the most metal song on the album. It has this really chugging riff that goes like, like, I love that shit. So, in my opinion, overall, the album is still a 7 out of 10 to me. And then that brings us to Favorite Worst Nightmare from the Arctic Monkeys. Now, I definitely still believe that this is a great fucking album. I mean, honestly, this has been one of my favorites that I've reviewed because, like, I think the whole band is utilized to their fullest. Like, the vocals from Alex Turner, like, they always fit the instrumentation and give off, like, this kind of carefree, matter-of-fact vibe with his, just, like, his delivery that I think the songs, they really fit him very well. Like, even the slower ones, like, he still gives, like, a bit of a different performance, but it's, like, still just as compelling, and he can still manage that whole, like, sexy vibe that they're kind of known for nowadays. Like, this album was really surprising for me in that aspect, because it was less sexy and more of just, like, a banger. So, yeah, and, you know, the rest of the members, they really get their moments to shine, too, because, you know, the solos and guitar lines from Jamie, like, they can be really creative for a lot of songs. Like, Teddy Picker's solo, I love it reminds me of Andy Summers from The Police with his really eccentric solos. Like, it just has, like, this kind of unconventional, like, like, that's sick. And, you know, I think there's a lot of awesome bass lines from Nick O'Malley. Like, it's all perfectly mixed in there. And, like, obviously, fucking Matt Helders, like, he has hella chops on the drums. Like, especially on, like, Fluorescent Adolescent or, like, Old Yellow Bricks. He goes fucking hard. So, yeah, I mean, just across the board, you know, the album, it's just super catchy from front to back. Like, even with the songs I found less catchy, they still grab my attention. The album has an excellent pacing where, like, they put, like, a slow song right in the middle. So if you're, like, blasting your fucking ears out, you get a bit of respite. And, of course, 505 is an excellent outro track. I also had the extra 2 tracks of The Frame Tour and Matador, which I think are an excellent addition to the back end. So, yeah, I mean, it does a great job. Like, I feel like the production and the mastering, it makes it sound like you're watching them perform live. Like, it's just perfectly mixed. You get to really hear and feel everything. It just gets you so into it, man. It's like a shot of coffee. Like, this shit might not have nothing to do with the music's quality, but, like, I just really appreciated the time this album came into my life because, you know, it was such a surprise, and it just got me through the grind that I was going through at that time. I was grinding hard at Old Navy, waking up early as shit, and I was like, fuck, I gotta review this album. I'm gonna listen to this as I get ready and brush my teeth and make my fucking coffee, and, like, it just really set the tone that month for me. So I just really appreciated that this album came into my life the time it did. So yeah, that being said, I'll give this album what it was back then. So it remains a 9 out of 10. And now we are on to Doo-Wops and Hooligans by Bruno Mars. Now, to be honest, I feel like I have bro, my neighbors probably fucking hate me. The ones that are at this wall behind you guys, they probably fucking hate me. I saw that they have an Edina Realty fucking sign outside their house, and it's probably because of me. Yeah, I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. But as I was trying to say before I fucked up, is that I have the least to say about this album just because I feel like it's short, it's sweet, it just gets its point across, and it does exactly what it needs to do for a pop album. And, like, it's a testament to, like, how good the era of pop was back in the 2010s. Like, compared to pop music now, I feel like a lot of it's really hit or miss, but back then, like, when I was a kid, I enjoyed a lot of it, so, like, a lot of the tracks here were familiar for me off the get-go. But, like, I feel like this time, you know, with the review back then and now, I feel like I always just appreciate the songs I heard the least more. Because, like, you know, I don't mind some of the hits, but, you know, some of them definitely hit better than others. Like, Just the Way You Are and shit, like, that's definitely a top hit. Like, I feel like Grenade and, like, Count on Me, like, they're alright. But overall, the meat is with the lesser played songs, in my opinion. Because, I mean, let's get real, like, the production's great. It's super slick and smooth across the board, and nothing feels misplaced. You know, you listen with headphones or in the car, it's awesome. Like, all of the songs hit perfectly. And, you know, like, the bass can still be surprising at times because, like, the music is so clear, but you can still really feel the song. So, I mean, it's very high quality in that regard. Some of the songs, you know, it's kind of just run-of-the-mill. Like, it's shit you've heard before. But I feel like Bruno Mars himself has quite an aura and a presence on this album. Like, I feel like he brings a lot of charisma, so he kind of fills in the blanks for those parts where you're kind of like, this is kind of shit I've heard before, but at least it's coming from Bruno, so it has like a nice spin on it, right? So yeah, he still keeps your attention, but you know, I mean, some songs, they're less relatable depending on like who's listening, but even I, you know, with my like eclectic, weird music taste, I was still able to siphon like plenty of meaning out of Doo-Wops and Hooligans. So, you know, I'd say my favorite songs are easily Runaway Baby. I just think it's a complete banger. It's the most energetic song on that album, and it always gets me going. It always perks my ears up when I listen to this album. And then Talking to the Moon is like the slower, just excellent song that I just really like, because it's got like this emotional heaviness on it without trying too hard. And, you know, it can be pretty relatable because, you know, there's the Doo-Wops and the Hooligans aspect where Hooligans is more male-oriented and Doo-Wops is more, like, female-oriented. But I was still able to find a lot of love for that song. And then Liquor Store Blues, which was another Hooligans song, it's got Damien, Bob Marley's son on it. I just really like the vibes of it. I think it's pretty relatable, just being down on your luck and feeling this type of way. So, yeah, I'd still say this album is an 8 out of 10. It remains an 8 out of 10, and I think it perfectly suits that. I've heard Silk Sonic is really good, so I think I want to check that out next from Bruno. Yeah, sorry, I had to drink a lot of coffee for this because I've had a super busy day getting ready for my fucking vacation. I'm just excited because we're finally on the most recent album I last reviewed, which is American Heartbreak by Bryan. So where do I even begin, man? Because, like, this is the one I have the least distance from. I mean, I pretty recently reviewed it, and it was fresher to me. You know, I still think it's a good album, you know, and Zach and company, like, all of his homies he recruited to do this, I mean, they truly accomplished something special with this work here. Because, you know, before Bryan and Noah Kahan and, like, all these dudes came out the woodworks, I feel like country was kind of just in this weird spot. Like, this whole phrase started coming around where people were like, oh man, anything but country. And overall, I was one of those people. I mean, I appreciate old country, but new country, like, it's pop country, dude. Like, it just doesn't hit the same, right? But this album was just so much more raw and organic, and I really loved it for that. You know, it was truly just something different. They call this genre, like, red dirt or whatever. It's kind of like a workman's country, but, like, I feel like Bryan, he just, his delivery is very believable. Like, you can tell this is where he comes from, and it just really got me to understand, like, southern/western, like, country boy culture better. Because, in my opinion, it's as simple as that when it comes to music. Like, you're getting insight on other cultures, you know? Like, I listen to rap, and even though they might, you know, a lot of black folk might live around here who can really resonate with that music, that's still something that's, like, different to me. But, like, rap was the very first genre that actually got me into music through fucking Kanye West and a bunch of other rappers, right? I was able to adapt to rap as just a regular suburban-ass white boy, and now I had to do the same thing with Japanese music, Korean music. Even though this is American, like, country music always just felt so foreign to me as just the suburban Minnesota guy. But Bryan, you know, he just really opened my eyes. But at the same time, the same complaints I had from last time still exist. Because let's get real, bro. Like, trying to properly pay attention to all 34 songs on this album for 2 hours straight is a tough ask. Like, especially in our current day era where we stream everything and you can just change the vibe at any second. Like, I mean, I personally still have the attention span for it, but it's still exhausting. Like, even if I listen to 2 hours of a genre I favor, such as rap or rock or metal, I'd still be fucking tired by the end of it, dude. So it was a big ask for me. But I was still able to get through it, you know, and I said what I said about country culture as a whole and how I'm a lot more enlightened on it now, right? It's just a double-edged sword because, you know, you drop 34 songs together in a triple album and you get as much listening time from your audience as possible in the streaming era. but like you still sacrifice cohesion and getting like a properly paced listening experience out there. Some songs, you know, they're definitely just going to end up feeling less remarkable than others. But, you know, like, I won't let that take away from the good on this album. You know, it's not like I'm finding a diamond in the rough. I feel like overall, most of the songs are at least good. Because when I tried to make, like, a revised playlist version where I took out the songs I liked the least, I still had, like, 2/3 of the album remaining at the minimum. So, like, that's definitely a good thing when you have 34 songs and I like more than 20 of them. So, yeah, you know, I still appreciate what this album was able to do for me personally, and, you know, Zach has a lot of heart, and, you know, I just feel like in the future, I'd really be excited to see what Zach is capable of, and I want to see him experiment more on his future works, because although there's a lot of interesting moments on the album, I feel like they're kind of reduced just to some certain songs, and, you know, it takes multiple listens to really grab that. So even though this is one of the only albums that, out of all the ones on this re-review, that made me cry because of She's Alright, which was about a dead mother, which just had to hit me here and now, right? Even though I was able to cry from this album, it was just on one song out of 34, right? And by the way, the only other album I cried on was Dark Side of the Moon. Us and Them, crazy. But anyway, back to this album, like, you know, because I'm just hearkening back to that because Anthony Fantano had an interview with one of the musicians he reviewed, and the dude was like, "How are you going to give an album that you cried to a fucking 7 out of 10 motherfucker?" Right? But that's exactly what I end up doing here. I mean, my favorite songs, you know, and since there's more of them, I'll list more. Billy Stay is a really good fucking song. Like, I really love just how he speaks from the perspective of like an old couple, like the woman in an old couple, and, you know, Billy's like getting like Alzheimer's or dementia. Like, that fucked with me. That almost made me cry too. I also like Heavy Eyes, Younger Years, and No Cure. I just like kind of those more fast-paced songs. Not that the slow songs on this album are bad, I just feel like the more adrenaline-filled songs are far few in between, so they stuck out more to me, and I really enjoyed them. I really like it when Zach Bryan turns up the tempo. And I also really like Sun to Me, because, you know, if you're in like a stable relationship where you feel happy, like, that's how I feel about it, you know, like, Sun to Me is just an excellent song. It really resonated with me. So yeah, the album is still a 7 out of 10. So, there you have it, folks. On this re-review, I've decided nothing changes score-wise. And honestly, if anything, I'm kind of glad about that for now, because it kind of just shows that once I set my mind on a score, usually that's going to be unwavering and it's going to stay where it fucking belongs. But let's get real. I've also changed my mind on music, games, movies, shows, like, you know, because I consume a lot of media. I am a consumer, you know, I am a queer. No, I'm kidding. But I am, though. But I'm not. But, you know, like, fucking, I consume a lot of media. I've changed a lot of my mind on this type of shit before. So in the future, when I get like another good batch of reviews out, maybe this is something I can do every 6 months or so. We'll see where I go. But regardless, you know, I appreciate all of you guys for coming here, and from now on, the goal is going to just be, is for me to keep posting reviews here and any other media I come up with here, because I do want to make like some top 10 lists and some other cool shit, and I was thinking of potentially introducing other things I might want to review other than music, but we'll wait for that in the future. That's just a potential prospect. I just wanted to get this video out before I go on vacation, just so I can give you guys something, even if it's not a proper new album review. But don't you worry, alright? You know who you are. Your album is still coming next. I don't know if I can guarantee another video here in July, but we'll see. Anyways, I hope to see you all back here when that review does drop, and thanks again. This is Dennis signing off. I hope you all have a wonderful 4th of July.